What did you see?
I saw none.
For today's review, I actually managed to get off my butt and go to a movie theater. And this is no small feat because there are video games here. And here I can actually play video games while watching movies without people getting all snippy about it. Today's movie was one I wanted to see since I heard about it, but with my laziness I may have never gotten around to seeing it in theaters had Josh not suggested that we go check it out. And I just can't say no to him. Would you look at that face? And on top of all of that, I felt it was appropriate because last year I reviewed Annabelle Creation, which like today's movie is in the CCU, or the Conjuring Cinematic Universe. I just made that up. And there's apparently another one coming out next year. And if I review that one next year, you could damn near call this a habit. Do you get it? Because I'm reviewing The Nun? Let's move on. So there's a monastery in Romania where some evil stuff is going on. Which of course it is, because it's in Romania. I should probably find out where my viewership is from before I make jokes like that. Oh, we're good. Neither of the people that watch this channel are from there. Anyway, two nuns are attacked by a demon dressed as a nun, and one of them jumps out the window and hangs herself instead of letting the demon get her. Shortly after that, some dude named Frenchie finds the body and calls the Pope, I guess, because the Vatican decides to send Father Burke out to investigate. The Vatican tells him to go get Sister Irene, because reasons. And they meet up with Frenchie and go down to Dracula's monastery to investigate the suicide. And you'll never guess what happens next. Demons. As I said last year in my review of Annabelle Creation, I continue to enjoy the Conjuring movies. Probably this one less than the other ones I remember, but I still found it enjoyable. When I looked at the reviews for this movie, I saw a lot of people marked it down for its story, cause, you know, that's why we go to horror movies. So I'm not going to get on this movie's case for having a lackluster story, because that's not why I went. On the other hand, I also shouldn't get on the critics' case for acting like it should have a great story, because I'm certain I've done that before. So the story of the movie was fairly basic, and essentially what I expected it to be. A prequel. We find out where the nun came from and how she ended up entangled in the life of the Warrens, and that's all it needed to be. So to hell with the story, let's talk about the scares. I feel like the real reason I watch a horror movie is for it to try to scare me. And I feel like the reason I like The Nun less than the other Conjuring movies is because it was the greatest departure from at least what I remember and enjoyed of the other Conjuring movies. Personally, I tend to prefer a horror movie that builds an atmosphere and slowly ramps up the scares to a crescendo over the course of the film. Like most ghost movies. Not that one. But this movie immediately turns it up to 11 and tries to stay there. All of these ghosts and spooky things are coming straight at you. Ain't nobody got time to open all your cupboards. I'm gonna start off by burying you alive. And that's not a joke, that shit happened. And the demon didn't only bury the priest, it also carved a headstone for him because apparently it can't resist a good Looney Tunes style gag. But don't worry, he was able to escape with a bell tied to a string. Now this part makes sense to me because I have heard that they used to do this to dead bodies in case someone accidentally buried someone alive. We've all done it before. But it probably doesn't make as much sense that Sister Irene was able to tell that it was the priest yelling from inside the casket that was also buried under feet of dirt, and she was hearing it from yards away. That part seems unlikely. Another thing I took issue with was the type of spooking that this movie used, because I signed up for a ghost and demon movie. Those things were there, sure, but a good portion of this movie actually seemed more like a zombie movie. That nun that hanged herself reanimated all zombified for a bit, and a little boy shows up that acts an awful lot like a zombie himself. Now granted, zombies don't take anything away from this being a horror movie, but it certainly isn't the kind of horror movie I came in wanting to see. And one last thing I'll give this movie credit for is a really great merchandising idea that the movie gave me. See, this demon's favorite thing to do is to spin crosses upside down until they're all nice and Satan-y. So here's my pitch. You take two crosses and you make them into a clock. That would sell so well. Morbid people would love them, Satan-y people would love them, and horror movie people would love them. And if you made sure that they were right side up in the packaging in the store, religious people would love them. And they just wouldn't realize the mistake they made until a half hour after they turned it on. I guess that would still put them in the return policy though. There's some kinks to work out. I like the performances in this movie a lot and I don't feel like there was a weak link in any of them. I went into the movie pretty blind, so I didn't even know who was in the cast besides the nun herself, if you can count the character of the nun as part of the cast because I don't know who plays her. And all I can and need to say about her is that she still gives me the heebie-jeebies. But Sister Irene had me confused for most of the movie. I kept wondering what her connection was going to be with Lorraine Warren from some of the other movies because she had a real Vera Farmiga vibe to her. It got me thinking that Sister Irene, who has the same precognitive abilities as Lorraine, was going to wind up being Lorraine's mom or something, but the timeline didn't make sense for that. But I was able to work it out at the end of the movie when I found out that Sister Irene is played by Thaisa Farmiga, who is Vera's younger sister. And if I'm pronouncing those wrong, screw you, get easier names. But then the question becomes, why do you cast her sister in the movie when the two characters are going to look awful similar but have no connection to each other at all? Father Burke was also very good. He was all moody and serious, but he still got jokes on occasion, like when he yelled holy shit at one point. I see what you did there. I guess you could say I was a little disappointed in him when he was sent to the monastery to find out if the ground was still blessed there, and he saw that the building had been bombed in the war, and he never said, well, I guess we can go home because it's clearly holy. Get it? Real missed opportunity there, pal. The only other significant living character in the movie was the guy called Frenchie, who had a real rapey vibe to him for a while, but he turned out to be a pretty good guy. Maybe not the smartest guy, though. Look, I get you've seen some real evil stuff in this graveyard, so I understand why you'd want to pull that giant cross out of the ground and carry it with you on your trip home for protection, but you kinda desecrated that grave there to do it. Haven't you seen Poltergeist? You moved the headstone, but you didn't move the bodies. Of course, maybe he just doesn't get the whole Christian thing, because later they find something containing the blood of Christ, and he says, Christ? Like Jesus Christ? No, his cousin Donnie. Donnie Christ. You're gonna have to say it like that. And on that note, why would you store the blood of Christ in a super fragile glass egg? That'd be like the most precious and important thing in your religion, and you decide to store it in something made out of dried leaves and eggshells? So that's that. I enjoyed The Nun. Not a crazy good story, but if you like the Conjuring series, it certainly adds to it. Though I wasn't entirely pleased with some of the departures they took in their scares, such as making it a zombie movie at times and not really building to their hauntings, I still felt like it worked and was pretty effective in what it intended. Great performances too, so I recommend it. But I also recommend that you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and if there's anything you'd like me to review, you can leave it in the comments below or on my Facebook fan page. So for this week, I have been Robert, and The Nun has just been reviewed. So, how was Annabelle created? Well, when a mommy creepy doll and a daddy creepy doll love each other very much. What actually happened was that in 1943, professional disturbing and creepy doll maker Samuel Mullins lives with his wife Esther and his daughter Bee. At least that's how it goes until a passing truck, a lug nut, and stupidity makes Bee much less living.